What is going on, everyone? Griffin here, coming at you with some FIXER gameplay. And today we're going to be looking at FIXER the same way we looked at Dahlia and Runway. We're going to look at making him a better rogue. So let's head over and let's talk about it. So FIXER has been one of the most polarizing characters in Rogue Company, in my opinion. He is one of like the first 2 or 3 released rogues. I believe we got Dahlia, then we got FIXER, and ever since he has been released in Rogue Company, it has caused massive amounts of issues within Rogue Company itself. Either FIXER's been disabled or the tier's been disabled more times than I can count. He's been tweaked, he's been changed, he's been disabled, he's been pulled from the game, his weapon's been pulled from the game, he's been re-put back into the game. Like, there's been a lot that's happened with FIXER. And where does FIXER currently exist in the game? I think that he's in an okay spot. I don't think he's overly overpowered, but I do feel like he is very strong at what he does. Him only having access to sniper rifles and DMRs kind of like puts him in this niche play style. But if you're able to actually use FIXER in a very productive way, he is very devastating for the enemy team. And what makes him devastating, in my opinion, is his passive ability. Now, his active ability is fine. You know, him being able to see through smoke and then him being the only rogue that has access to cluster smoke comes in clutch and feels very good, especially whenever you're playing single life game modes where you can actually screen off a very large area with the cluster smoke. But there's certain things that do exist in the game, like hard reveals, that kind of negates what the smoke actually does. You know, it would be interesting if the cluster smoke could like stop reveals from happening inside of the smoke or something like that. Like, I think that that would be kind of interesting to like see how that plays. But at the end of the day, FIXER is still a very polarizing rogue, and I do feel like we can make some tweaks and changes to him. First of all, his passive ability. So his passive ability is Full Metal Jacket, which ignores enemy armor completely. So it breaks the game to a certain degree whenever you're going up against certain team comps that rely heavily on the armor. So if you have a trench anvil combo with a Mac to top it off, then they're very much going to rely so heavy on that armor. And all you have to do to kind of bypass all that as a hard counter is pick FIXER, and you really don't have to worry about it at that point. And it kind of sucks that you have one character that counters so many different things in the game, right? Armor is something that's like, oh, it's just one counter. Okay, fair enough, right? But it's not like glitch. So glitch counters every single thing that's been deployed on the map at the time that he hacks. It's not something that is a constant thing that happens, you know, time after time after time, round after round after round. So could they make this passive ability a little bit better? Yes, I think that they could, because I think that they could actually make it to where, does it do damage to armor still? Does it do damage to armor and HP at the same rate? Is that too much? If you are shooting someone with the Mamba and you do 75 headshot damage with all 3 bursts, and you're playing against someone that has 75 armor, should it do 75 to both at the same time? Should the damage be split between the two? You have people that like are heavily armored like Anvil. Let's say if you down an Anvil as a FIXER and a Saint throws the Saint drawn out, then that Anvil is going to come back up and he's going to have 75 HP based off of the armor alone, plus the HP bump that he gets off of being revived by the Saint drone, which is still going to put him in a good spot to re-engage into a target almost immediately. But whenever your game and your player base is more so playing respawn game modes than anything else, then those benefits kind of float out the window, right? Because if you're playing with a Mac on Strikeout and the Mac goes down because of a FIXER, they're still going to have the armor that they had access to, but they can just press the button and get back into the game like immediately and continue shooting at people. Why are they going to wait for someone to come by and revive them? So do you take the damage per shot and you divide it out in some weird way to where it does damage to the armor and then it also does damage damage to the HP? Or do you redesign the way that his actual active ability works to where it's like when he pops the ult, maybe he doesn't get the increased damage, but maybe while the ult's active, he ignores the armor in that moment. He can see the areas between the armor, right? Because it kind of feeds into this whole narrative and this fantasy of playing the character. I do like his passive ability now more so than the passive ability that he had before. His thermal vision is very interesting. You're able to see through smokes. You're able to, see some like hue around certain parts of cover and things like that, that's supposed to like kind of signify and notify, like almost as like a passive intel thing. Oh, there's a character behind this wall, there's an enemy behind this wall, because I can kind of see the outline of their heat signature. I think that if they added more functionality into what his actual thermal vision does, so let's say that they completely rework his passive ability once again and add the ability to ignore armor inside of the active ability, there's other things that they could do. Like, why can't he see footsteps? Why can't he see like certain things through walls? Why can't he, you know what I mean? Why can't certain things offset the thermal vision? Like, for example, if it's thermal vision and you throw an incendiary grenade, and wouldn't that kind of mess his thermal vision up? Like, wouldn't that just make it all a blur? Like, it's kind of weird that thermal vision doesn't really act like thermal vision. It's just like, well, you're only going to see like the outlines and the heat signatures of these very specific things, and you're only going to see where they are in these very specific scenarios. It's like, well, give us a little bit more. Why can't we see like footprints? Why can't we see like if someone's been standing next to cover for a very long time, then their body heat is going to naturally transfer into whatever that is. So for example, if you're standing next to a concrete wall, then I mean, if you're standing there long enough and feed the fantasy a little bit, then that heat is going to spread through that, right? And then in certain maps you have certain things on fire. Why doesn't that mess with his thermal vision? And it caused these weird scenarios to pop up where it's like, well, I don't know if that's a person or not, I can't really tell. Like, they need to kind of like look at his thermal vision as a whole, and it's like, should it be more powerful than it is? Yes. Should there be very strict drawbacks to using it? Yes, absolutely. I think if you get flashed while you're using the thermal vision, that it should just like double the duration of the flash grenade, because like it is something that is like, you're seeing thermal vision. Like, why would thermal ignore a flashbang? I don't know. Would it? That's something interesting to find out. Like, you should be able to see these things. You should be able to see like almost how Glitch can see like certain pieces of utility through walls. You should be able to see someone throwing something. You should be able to see traces and patterns and things in the air where these thermals kind of existed to kind of feed into that fantasy a little bit more. I think that there's a lot that they could do with the character just based off of his active and passive abilities to put him in a better spot and to make him a little bit more fun and interesting to play with. It's like, are they going to take the time to do that? That's the real question. And I think that they possibly could. I think FIXER has been tweaked and changed so much that if they could nail that final design down for FIXER and kind of create this scenario where he's really fun to play, he's got a really interesting active ability, he's got a pretty decent passive ability that's not completely broken in the game, that it would put him in a higher play rate. And I know that we see FIXERs from time to time, but you got the FIXER flank, you got the FIXER DMR, also with his ability that gets that extra damage, then that could turn a battle very, very quickly. If you're playing against a super smoke heavy team or a super armor heavy team, like, he's a hard counter for a lot of things. Thank God he doesn't have access to submachine guns or assault rifles. But be sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. What would you do to FIXER to make him a better rogue? My suggestion, rework the passive ability into something that makes a little bit more sense and could potentially feed into the active ability just a little bit. Like, think about it. Why do you not have like thermal bullets as your passive ability, so that you could shoot like a wall and it caused like a reveal spread to happen when you shoot the wall whenever he has his ability popped? Why can't you do that? That would make him a fun, interesting character, and it would also help like suss out where people are, and it would be something that would be more tactical as opposed to like something that is just, we do high damage now. But that's what I would do. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check that description for links to Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Those are the places to contact me. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, then consider hitting that join button to become one of the 256 crew members. Lastly, on Thursdays from 8 until 11 p.m. Central Time, Sundays from 10 a.m. until we get tired, I will be streaming here on YouTube. So if you are interested and available, please feel free to stop by and say hello there. Thanks for watching, guys.